Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to the screening of Until We Meet Again. I didn't know this film. I have to thank Margaret Body of the Film Foundation and with Universal Picture, they restore this fantastic Frank Borzeghis melodrama. And to introduce the film, I'm very pleased to have Scott McGee, who's the head of original content for TCM. Here's Scott.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you very much. So thank you again for having me here at this Film Preservation Festival. It's really nice to be back, and I'm really pleased to be able to tell you just a little bit about this film, Till We Meet Again, which was produced at Paramount Pictures in 1944. And it stars Ray Milland and a young actress named Barbara Britton. Milland plays a soldier who is an airman, rather, who crashes and parachutes behind enemy lines in Nazi-occupied France. And Miss Britton plays a nun who helps him in his endeavor to escape those said Nazis. This is based on a play, an unpublished one, by Alfred Maury, written in 1934, under the title of Tomorrow's Harvest. And this movie came about eventually came out in 1944, but it was originally conceived a few years earlier with the intention of casting Ingrid Bergman in the role as the nun. This film, along with movies such as Heaven Knows Mr. Allison from 1957, which saw Deborah Kerr and Robert Mitchum on a Japanese-occupied island during World War II. I think these two movies make up that subgenre known as nuns in danger. But rather than talk to you about that subgenre, I'd like to talk to you really about the film's director, and it was a gentleman named Frank Borzaghi. Frank Borzaghi is not a director who is widely known outside of really tight and knowledgeable film nerd aficionado circles. I'm sure a lot of you know who Frank Borzaghi is, but he's not a household word, I would say. There's a couple of reasons for that. Most notably is that of the 100 or so films that Borzaghi made in his career, starting in 1916, only about 40 of them survive. So many of them were of the silent era and are lost forever. Another reason why he's not really well known is because, you know, in the post-war era, when the young French film critics rediscovered and reassessed American films of the classical Hollywood era, Borzaghi's films were really not among them. They did not see a lot of Borzaghi's films, if any at all. And there's another reason why, and that is there's a style or an overarching theme throughout Borzaghi's work, and I would say it's sort of the stories about the transcendental nature of love to overcome all, particularly adversity. But until I tell you a little bit more about his preoccupation with that theme, let me also tell you where he came from. He was born in 1893 in Salt Lake City, Utah. He was born to a family of immigrants of German, Swiss, Austrian, and Italian descent. And as a family, as a very tight-knit family of Catholics living in Mormon territory, back then Utah wasn't even a state yet, they learned a lot about depending on one another as a family and about their practicing faith. He was the fourth of 14 children, many of whom died from flu. And they suffer from great poverty during those growing up years. And these were lessons that Borzaghi took with him throughout the rest of his life and into his career. He eventually got into acting, started acting for producer Thomas Ince in 1913. And then Ince gave him the chance to direct films in 1916. And in that year alone, directed about 15 films. So he started right out of the gate being pretty busy. Throughout the teens and into the 20s, he worked at other studios, Triangle, Mutual, many of which you probably never heard of, but then others such as Paramount, First National, and then eventually at Fox, where Borzaghi really hit his stride. He was one of the top directors at Fox, along with people like John Ford and F.W. Murnau. And Berzegi, with films like Seventh Heaven, which came out in 1927, Street Angel, and others, this is where Berzegi really started to detail and show in a really big way that aforementioned preoccupation with the power of love to overcome all. Well, into the 30s, he continued to make films such as History Made at Night, as well as Man's Castle at Columbia, and others. He also made what is commonly known as sort of the Germany trilogy, and this is movies that were set in Germany, one of which was called What Now, let's see, what was that? Yeah, What Now, Little Man, What Now, which came out in 1934. And then following that was another film called Three Comrades in 1936. These two films were about the struggles of ordinary German citizens living throughout the Weimar Republic in the days after World War I, during which Germany went through a crushing depression and very widespread poverty. And Berzegi kind of detailed or kind of showed how that demonstration of solidarity, the love that the main character shared in those films, were able to overcome this menace, this menace that was kind of creeping up in German society at the time. And Berzegi hit this theme head on in 1940 with The Mortal Storm, which I understand was screened here not too recently. That film kind of brings it more to the front about the meaning of love for your fellow man in the face of a system and an ideology that valued none of that. And this is a preoccupation that you see with Berzegi in this film, Till We Meet Again. It's not a romance in the sense that the two main characters are in love with each other, but rather it's a love that transcends that erotic love that Berzegi often did portray in his films. In closing, I'll just say that Berzegi he's one of the true stylists of film, and it's the kind of movie making that was more subtle and that really played more towards, I don't know, just this understanding that cinema is a means of which it can bring people together. And I think that's the real power of Berzegi's films. And I'm really pleased to be able to watch this here with you today. This is Till We Meet Again from 1944, directed by Frank Berzegi. Thank you.